Hello and welcome to another Kabbalah lesson. Today we're starting the second semester, so it's going to be a new set of topics, a new set of lessons that we're going to take a look at from today onwards. And welcome back, Jonathan. Good to see you again.
Good to be back. Good to be here with you all.
That's great. Now, so what we're going to do first, I think there are one or two questions from the previous lessons, as some friends watched lessons on YouTube, so they didn't get a chance to ask the questions live, so they've emailed them through. What I'd like to do is first answer those questions. Secondly, we're going to move on to the first lesson of the second semester, and we're going to take a look at a few things which both actually include in it the worlds that we're living in, how the structure is all laid out, and also we're also going to take a look at some social aspects and how Kabbalah also takes a perspective on social on some topics that are really important for us. So we'll get down to that nitty-gritty, but first let's answer those questions from the first semester and make a fresh start for the second semester. So we've got questions from who?
Okay, so Mutlu, we have questions first from Sid Sophie, if that's how you pronounce your name. The question is, I would like the meaning of the 4 pure worlds Abia and the 4 impure worlds Abia and the relationship between them, please. Thanks a lot and have a nice day.
Okay, well, the best way to actually to think about that is to go back to the perception of reality lesson that we did. Because in that lesson, what we did was we took a look at how we perceive reality. And we said that there's day and night, bitter and sweet, beautiful, ugly. And everything has to have, in reality, an opposite. Because through those two opposite things, we can actually have a discernment of sweet and bitter. I mean, we wouldn't know what bitter is if there was no sweet. So we need something to compare things to. And same in spirituality. So in order for me to discover the good, I also need to discover what is bad, so I can actually build the good against it, like corresponding to it. And the worlds of Abia, the pure ones, and the impure ones are actually worlds that correspond against one another. So on the one hand, I can see the negative side of things, and on the other hand, I can see the positive side of things. And what I can kind of do is reconcile them. And actually that reconciliation, the reconciliation is the point of human, because the good and the bad already exist. They already exist in reality, and it's there. But what we need to do is to learn how to reconcile them and use them in a way that serves a purpose of good, of bestowing.
Okay. The next question is from Carl. He says, hello, thanks so much for the lesson, and posted them on YouTube. My question from lesson 16 is as follows. If we can refer to the host guest analogy, I understand the analogy and it makes sense if all things the host is providing is perceived as desirable or positive by the guest, and he can receive them and enjoy them with the intention that doing so will bring pleasure to the host first and foremost, and secondarily, the guest can also enjoy the meal itself. However, sometimes life's events are not perceived as positive or desirable, yet all we know, all things come from the Creator, none else besides Him. So how would this fit into an analogy or otherwise in practice?
Okay, well, the first part of the question, let's take a look at that, how to build that relationship with the host. Okay, so basically, how to build my relationship with the Creator. So until I discover the Creator, there's really nothing to talk about. But what Baal Salam is giving us here is this story of what it needs to be like. Now, our nature as a created being is a desire to receive pleasure. And that's what we are. We're not denying it. We're not sorry about it. That's how we are. That's what we are. But the bad thing about us is we use all our desires in an egoistic way. So what that happens is causes great damage to everything in life, like the environment, for example, okay? And we cause a lot of damage to other people because of our egoistic nature. We have wars, we have conflicts, we disregard everything else, like the animate, vegetative, and the still level. So we made really a trash out of this world. And this is how it is. So what we have to do in order to receive the good that the Creator wants to give us is to first of all understand what that good that the Creator wants to give is. And because we don't know that, we can't make sense of the bad things that happen to us where we're not getting any pleasure. All right. So on the one hand, everything does come from the Creator, yes, because the whole of reality is working as like a time clock. Okay, it's working, right? The sun goes up, the sun goes down, the seasons are moving, everything is moving, and there's this inner nature that we have, there's an inner nature that the whole of reality has that makes us function. And our problem is we're not conscious about that reality that the Creator is in. So we're only living in this level of consciousness, which in spirituality is like not conscious at all, because we're working through our inner instincts, just like animals are. Basically, we just react to life and we run after our desires, just like animals do. Plants do the same thing as well, actually. So first of all, with the wisdom of Kabbalah, what we have to do is to understand what the Creator wants. If I understand what the Creator wants from me or wants to give me, then I can relate to all the negative things that also happen in my life and direct it towards the goal and use it as a leverage and not look at it like some negative event of life. That way I'm actually using everything that happens to me in a useful, in a purposeful way. And a lot of people that ask the question when something bad happens to them is like, why me? Why bad things happen to me? Well, why not? It happens to everyone, really. The whole world is going through a lot of suffering, and the only reason for that suffering is so that we can ask this question, why? And this question why is, if it's really strong enough inside of us, it leads a person to search. So we have to, through the study of Kabbalah, understand first of all what the Creator wants to give us. What is that exalted state that He wants to give us where we can have all the pleasure? And if we're not working towards that, He's obviously wanting to push us towards that. And that push is going to be suffering. Okay? So what we need to be smart kids, study, find out what He wants to give us, and work towards that goal.
Okay. The next part of the question. Like the host has put something on the table for us to receive that we don't perceive as positive or desirable, at least initially.
That's right, because we don't know why. For example, our parents, when we're growing up, push us to do things that we don't really like. For example, you might not like going to school, but they force you to go to school. You might not like doing your homework, but they force you to do your homework. So at that point in time, it's not desirable. And you think you've got a bad mummy and daddy because they're not letting you play. Instead, you have to study. Right, Johnny?
Yep.
Yeah. See, Johnny understands exactly where we're coming from. No wiser than the experienced. So for us, the Creator is also something like unpleasant. Like the Kabbalists are saying, the Creator is good. He wants to do good to us. And we're looking at the world and thinking, listen, I don't want the kind of good you want because your idea of good is really bad. And that's because we don't understand the Creator at all. So we have to grow up. We have to grow up and start understanding what the purpose of life is so we can work towards that. And then things will become desirable. Actually, we'll want to receive even seemingly negative things so that we can move forward faster. Because let's face it, people who have problems, they're the ones who actually grow in life when they overcome those problems.
Okay, yet we know the Creator is all benevolence and everything is for the purpose of bringing us closer, more similar to Him, if received correctly. And then there's a question mark there, then also question mark, faith above reason question mark.
Well, exactly what we have to do is we have to start to understand the purpose of life, because if we understand the purpose that why we're created, we can begin to make sense of everything that's happening. Right now in life, we're purposeless. We don't understand why we're created. We don't understand why we're living. We don't understand what the Creator wants. We don't understand what our parents want. We don't understand what life wants from us. We just want to say, let's just get out of here, disconnect completely, okay? So we don't have an understanding of what our life is about. If we had an understanding, then we'd, obviously understand there's a goal, and we'd be trying to get to that goal because we begin to understand that it's a desirable goal. And this is why the whole wisdom of Kabbalah is very special. It really helps us to understand why we're created and what we can do to get there in the shortest way, and really, be happy and fulfilled in life, because the purpose of life is really to be fulfilled. We just don't understand how to be fulfilled. This is why Kabbalah is actually, it comes from the word to receive, lekabel in Hebrew. It means to receive from the Creator. If we know how to receive from the Creator, we can have everything, no problem at all. On that positive note, now that we can move to the second semester, I think that's all the questions that we have. Okay, great. So today we're going to, like I said, start the second semester. And the second semester is going to be a bit technical as well. Technical meaning that we have to take a look at how we were all created initially. And it's going to be like the physics of the spiritual worlds. So we're going to, it's going to be a bit technical, okay, kind of like physics. But let's keep focus, okay, because we need to understand how the Creator created us. We need to understand in what kind of a setting, in what kind of an environment that He placed us in. Because as we grow in spirituality, just like we grow up in this world, we want to have a place. We want to integrate ourselves to this world in such a way that we can grow in it and prosper in it. So this is why we're learning the structure of the worlds as well. So we want to sooner or later start depicting this reality in the way the Creator created it. And so I can actually integrate myself into that and start living in there and build my life in spirituality as well, just like we do it here. Okay, so we're going to read a little bit. We're going to go into the sources and we're going to talk about it a little bit. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them as usual. Okay, so the topic is the 4 phases of direct light. Okay, so we have to first understand, let's go back to the first semester's initial state. We all understand that we're a desire to receive, and a desire to receive is known in the wisdom of Kabbalah as a kli. Okay, so I hope you can see this. This is a kli. Okay, a vessel. Okay, so we are a vessel of reception, actually, Let us, vessel. Okay, there we go. We're a vessel of reception. So this is a kli in Hebrew. And I'm going to start using some technical words, so get used to it, okay? And we're a desire to receive, and we already know this from the previous semester, from first semester. Now let's do a little introduction and see how we go. The above mentioned order of cascading, which brings the will to receive to its final form in this world, follows a sequence of 4 discernments that exists in the 4-letter name Havaya. Okay, so we'll go step by step. All right, I'll just put a little mark here. So we're reading from Bala Sulam's writings, and he's saying, listen, we're all created in 4 steps, and the 4 steps of creation for us starts with the thought of creation, which we normally denote as the Creator, but we were all actually created from the thought of creation. This is very important because coming from the thought of creation, we need to attain the thought of the Creator. That's what actually attaining the Creator is. So it's like a kid growing up in this world. Where we need to get to is a state where we understand our parents completely. Okay? So the Creator created us in 4 phases, as it says here, and he says, in the order of cascading, which brings the will to receive, which is this, okay, to its final form in this world, follows a sequence of 4 discernments that exist in the 4-letter name Havaya. Now Havaya, let's not complicate things, basically is another name for the 4 phases of direct light. Sometimes it's also known as Elohim, which is God, Creator. Let's just draw. The 4 phases start with the thought of creation, and this is the root phase. So I'm going to just root phase. Sometimes we call it 0. Okay. And no, you couldn't, maybe you can't see that. Can you see that? Let's just do this. Okay, creation. This is also the root phase. Okay. 0. Okay. Now then, from this phase comes the first phase. And that first phase really is from this dot in the heart, which is a thought really, to create a desire to receive. The Creator created a vessel of reception, and He filled it completely with light. And this is the first phase. Okay, now this root phase is also sometimes called Keter. Okay, and the first phase here is called Chokhmah. Chokhmah means wisdom. Oops. Chokhmah, not W but an M. Okay, and in this phase the Creator created the whole of reality, the desire to receive that is, and He filled it up with His light. Basically, He filled it up with everything that He wanted to give to the created being. All right, so very, very important, because this is actually where we receive everything. Remember in the first semester where we talked about the first time the Creator created us, He created us in perfection in the first phase, and then we descended to this world, which is the second phase, and from here humanity, with a dot in the heart, have to develop, go up the same way to the third phase, which is actually consciously being with the Creator. It is the same state as the first state, but the difference is the created being is fully conscious in this third state, because he or she actually built the spirituality that he or she needs to build. Just like we build our lives in this world, we must also build our lives in spirituality. And in order for us to come to that completion, this first phase is the first setup where the Creator says, listen, these are all the things I have, and you can have them. So this is very important, just like this phase here. All right? So that's the first phase. And then what happens? Follows a sequence of 4 discernments that exist in the 4-letter name Havaya. This is because the 4 letters Havaya, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, in His name contain the whole of reality without any exception. So now He's giving us a bit of a additional definition. All right. So He's saying, listen, these are denoted also in letters in Hebrew. Okay, it's good for us to know. By the way, the Hebrew alphabet comes from who? It comes from Adam. Okay, Adam was the first man. Okay, thousands of years ago, was the person who actually came up with the Hebrew alphabet. And the Kabbalists say, well, the 4 phases can be denoted as 4 letters: Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. And the top here, the root phase, is the tip of the Yud, and this first phase here is the letter Yud itself. Okay, so it's like the tip here. Okay, there it is, and the actual letter Yud is Chokhmah. And then what do we have? And then we have the next phase. Now, from the first phase, where we received everything, something really interesting happens. And that interesting thing is actually the attribute of the light passes on to the Kli. Now, remember, the Creator is bestowal only. He is just giving. Okay? Only giving. Oh, my screen here is a bit dodgy. Okay, and He created us as reception, which is why we want to receive, and which is why the Creator is filling us completely. Now, when He fulfills us completely, He's also giving us the sensation of what kind of a being He is. Okay, it's like we have a dialogue with a friend, and from his relationship or her relationship to us, we figure out their attitude. We figure out, we decipher their personality. We begin to understand what they're like. Well, this is exactly what's happening here. The created being is beginning to understand that there is something, a force, filling it. That force is giving all this pleasure and all this goodness. So that phase is called the second phase. And that phase is called Bina. Okay, so we have Keter, Chokhmah, Bina. And Bina understands that this force just wants to give, and the light is also imprinting in the last point of this light here that it's a giver. So the created being also wants to reciprocate that action. It says, wow, I've received everything and I want to give too because somebody's giving to me. So this new desire is a desire to give. And this is called the letter Hey. And that's how the letter Hey looks like. Okay? Oops. There we go. That's the letter Hey. So we have the tip of the Yud, letter Yud, and Hey. And we have Keter, Chokhmah, Bina, and we have the root phase, the first phase, and the second phase. All right? So let's see what else it says. And then this Yud Hey Vav Hey, in his name, also Yud Hey Vav Hey is the name of the Creator, he's saying, contains the whole of reality. So let's take a look at the other phases as well and complete the cycle of the four phases of direct light so we can have the whole picture, and then we'll go into reading it and then explaining it. So this is the second phase, all right? Now the second phase is quite interesting because we're a desire to receive pleasure, inside of us manifests this desire to bestow, this desire to give. But then we have a bit of a dilemma. Well, if I'm just a desire to receive, I don't have anything to give. So what could I possibly give? Because I have nothing to give. The Creator's got everything. I've got nothing. I'm just an empty vessel of reception. So what can we do now in order to give? Is there any way of giving back to the Creator, or am I just going to receive everything? So this brings out the next level of development. Now, all of this is happening inside the same desire to receive. Although I'm drawing this all separately, we have to understand that all the experiences in life that we have happens in us, doesn't it? The experience doesn't happen somewhere out there. The sensation of the experience happens in me. So everything that I'm drawing here is actually happening in the same desire to receive. So here's the dilemma. If I'm a desire to receive, what am I going to give? Well, from that question is born a new state. And that state is called phase 3. You guessed it, the third phase. Okay. And it's called Zeir Anpin. And that's the third phase. Now the third phase also has a letter Yud Hey, the letter Vav. Okay. Now the third phase is very, very tricky because it now has to use what the Creator has to give with a desire to bestow. So you might think, well, how's that going to work? Well, if the Creator is just bestowal and wants to give, the desire to receive has nothing to give, but he understands that the Creator wants to give. And that's a crucial understanding, because if the Creator wants to give, you can say to yourself, well, you know what? I'll take a little bit, but I'll take it so that the Creator can enjoy, because he wants to give me. So there's a flip here in mentality. So this is why this is important. So I agree to take. I want to take because the Creator wants to give to me. which is great, no problem. But what I want to do is I want to take it in order to bring contentment to the Creator. I want to take it not because I want it, I want to take it because He wants to give it to me, and I'm happy to do that because He'll be happy. So you understand we have a bit of a change in attitude here already. And this development happens always at the end of the phase, because we can't really move on in life until we finalize the phase. It's also like that in our lives, isn't it, Johnny? We have to get over something, and then we get over it, and then we move on. Okay, so same here. Now this give and take now brings about a new phase. So we've got Keter, okay, we've got Chokhmah, Bina, Zerampin, and we've got the root phase, the first phase, the second phase, and the third phase, and we've got Yud, the tip of Yud, Yud, Hey, Vav. And then now we're coming to the fourth phase, okay? Remember, it's root, which is 0 phase, okay? So we're not really counting that. And then now it's the first, second, third, the fourth phase. Now the fourth phase is actually like he says here. Let's read the whole of the paragraph and then we'll go over it. It says, let's start from here. With that, okay. Yud Hey Vav Hey, in His name contained the whole of reality without any reception. In general, they are described in the 10 Sefirot Chokhmah, Bina, Tiferet, Malchut, and their Shoresh roots. So the last phase is called Malchut. And oops, let's do this black as well so we're a bit consistent. And this last phase, the fourth phase, is actually the real created being. You'll be happy to know. So it's like a baby that's growing up and becoming a real being. Okay, so this is exactly how this desire to receive is developing. The Creator is raising it, growing it by applying actions onto it, just like we apply actions on our children and we raise them and make them mature. The Creator is also doing actions on the desire to receive to bring it into an understanding through the sensations that it's going through in these 4 phases. And they've named these 4 phases just like we name our growth phases as well. So like we're a baby, we're a child, we're in our teens, we're an adult. Okay, kind of like that. So Malchut, this is the 4th phase. Let's write it down. The 4th phase, and this is called Malchut. Okay, and Malchut is also Yud, tip of the Yud, Yud, Hey, Vav, and the last letter, Hey, of this setup. Now, Malchut is very interesting because Malchut, in the 3rd phase, Zerampin said, you know what, I'm going to receive from the Creator a little bit so that He'll be happy. But what Malchut ends up with in the last phase of Zerampin is he comes to this understanding and says, well, wait a minute, everything that the Creator has is great, and to bestow is even greater. So why don't I just have everything? So I want everything that the Creator has, plus I want to bestow. So this is actually double the reception. So I'm receiving all the qualities of the Creator in bestowal, plus I'm receiving everything He's got, everything He wants to give. And this is actually called the real desire to receive. So this is actually the real desire. In the 4 phases that this desire goes through, Malchut is the state where the desire to receive really becomes mature and it can be named the desire to receive. And this desire to receive wants everything. Now remember, if we didn't want everything, we couldn't really be a desire to receive, could we? A desire to receive means I want everything. I want to get everything. Okay? And that is called Malchut. So now we have, what do we have? Let's go over them so we remember them. So we've got, okay, we have the root phase, known as Keter. Then we've got the first phase, Chokhmah. second phase Bina, third phase Zerampin, and the fourth phase, which is the created being called Malchut. And we got the tip of the letter Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, which is actually also Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey is the name of the Creator. So let's read the whole thing once again, okay, and let's see what it's telling us. The above mentioned order of cascading, which brings the will to receive to its final form in this world, follows a sequence of 4 discernments that exist in the 4-letter name Havaya. Okay, so this is Havaya. This is because the 4 letters Havaya, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, in his name contain the whole of reality, without any exception. In general, they are described in the 10 Sefirot, Chochma, Bina, Tiferet, Malkut, and their Shoresh root. Okay, so this was from the preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah on page 566, item 3. So in reality, the Creator created, okay, so here we have the Creator. He created the whole of reality in these 4 phases. These are called the 4 phases of direct light. It's very fundamental. This is something we really need to know, because this is how we were created, how the desire to receive actually was created. We can't really talk about us in this picture at the moment, because the concept of man, human, or Adam is a bit additional to this state. But what we can really talk about in the 4 phases is how the desire to receive was created. And this is very important, because this is our essence. We're a desire to receive. So we should know how this was created, the phases it went through, and what it's called. Also, you need to know that Zerampin is also known as Tiferet. So sometimes you might see the word Tiferet. You should know that they are the same. All right, and let me get rid of everything on this side here so we don't get confused. But this is the 4 phases of direct light. This is how the desire to receive was created. Okay. All right. Any questions up to here? No questions. All right, great. Okay, so we already also understood that we need to integrate here the 3 phases model. Okay, so 1 is how we were created in infinity, then our existence here in this world, and anybody who studies the wisdom of Kabbalah with a dot in the heart can also experience the spiritual elevation and go back to perfection. Oops, let's do this. The 3rd level. Okay, just like that. Okay, so this whole concept here is really related to what we learned in the 1st semester as well. Okay, in the 3 levels of reality, basically. So let's read a little bit more. Now, it might sound a little bit complicated. It might sound a little bit too much, okay, because we're now getting into some technical terms with words you've probably never heard about before. And there's some, even Hebrew words on there. Let's actually, do something smart and write the letters here. So this is Yod. This is Hey. This is Vav. And this is Hey. Okay? And it is written, it's written like this, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. In Hebrew, it's right to left, okay? And it's read as Ha-Va-Ya. Okay? The letter Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. All right? It's good to know. We don't have to memorize anything, but it's good for us to go over them in the lesson so we know about things, so we know how the Kabbalists are describing to us. I'll tell you why these are important. In the future, when we're studying and we're going deeper into all these things, you'll see that the letters have meanings as well. So it's good to know them from, from our initial lessons, so that when we dig deeper into them, then you know, this is the tip of the yud, it's the black dot, it's that dark, desire to receive for myself, and then this is how it's developing, and so on. So we'll be able to really put ourselves inside the book that we're studying and actually start living the book, because we know these things, right? So we know them, and we'll be able to match them to our emotions and to our understanding. So this is what I want you to do. I'm trying to do my best so I can give you everything that I can. Okay, let's make a proper yud out of this one. There we go. Yud, hey, vav, hey. All right. And this is the fourth phase of direct light. So let's read a little bit more. The reason why the will to receive must cascade by the four above mentioned discernments in Abiyah, which actually I'm going to have to fit on here by doing, once again, a bit of a cleanup here. Okay. So now he's going to give us the definitions of these in terms of worlds, which we spoke about in the first semester. So let's see how the worlds fit into this place. The reason why the will to receive must cascade by the four above mentioned discernments in Abiyah, Atzlut, Bria, Yitzra, Asya, is that there is a great rule concerning the kelim, which is the plural for vessels. As you know, kli is a vessel. Okay, let me write it here. Kli is a vessel. Okay, and kelim is the plural, and it's vessels. Okay. The expansion of the light and its departure make the kli fit for its task. This means that as long as the kli has not been separated from its light, it is included in the light and is annulled within it like a candle in a torch. So let's read that again. Let's see how the worlds fit in. The reason why the will to receive must cascade by the four above mentioned discernments in Abiyah. So also we have to note the worlds here. So the worlds are also cascading in the same form. So think of the four phases of direct light like a template. Okay, it's like the template of everything. The whole of spirituality is a template, and everything, all the details are actually in the four phases of direct light. And now we read a little bit more and we see that it's also corresponding to the worlds. Worlds meaning the level of connection, the degree of connection between the desire to receive and the will to bestow, and how they're interacting. And that interaction is actually the point of sensing and feeling the Creator, because that is where we're building the relationship. We can't have just a relationship with someone giving separately and completely disconnected with someone who wants to get something, and there's no connection between them. So in the wisdom of Kabbalah, the Creator and the created being must be brought together, and that bringing together is the action of the created being, which is called human, Adam. Okay, so we have the worlds here: Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asya. Okay, so sometimes known as the worlds of Abiyah. In short, okay, sometimes it's noted as Abiyah. So in the books, if you see A-B-Y-A, Abiyah, it's talking about Atzlut, Bria, Yitzra, and Asya. Okay? And there we go. So these are the four phases of direct light, and this is how the desire to receive was developed. And the final phase of this desire to receive's development is called the fourth phase, being Malchut. Malchut comes from the word, from the word limloch. Okay? It means to rule. I will rule. So it's Malchut. So it's also known as kingdom. Okay? It's like I will rule. It's my kingdom. My kingdom being my desire to receive. Okay, and this is actually the real created being, the created desire to receive, let's say. Okay. Now, until then, it looks like we're all okay. Nobody's got any questions. So let's go over these things step by step and go into a bit of a detail. All right. So the root phase, okay, the thought of creation that precedes and initiates the four phases process referred to as the root phase. So the root phase is actually the beginning of everything. This is how the Creator first thought about creating us, the desire to receive, and actually the intention that we're going to build on it later to connect it with the Creator. And it represents the light's desire to bestow. So when we say the four phases, we actually include the root phase there as well, because without it, the four phases would not exist. Simply because this is very important to actually note. In life, when things occur, we don't really relate it with the Creator, do we? Just like one of our friends, I think it was Carl, who asked a minute ago, said, listen, there's none else besides him, everything's coming from the Creator. But in our day-to-day lives, normally, even when we weren't in Kabbalah, and even after we come to Kabbalah, it takes quite a bit of time until we begin to really connect everything with the Creator. All right. So the fourth phase of direct light is actually telling us, listen, no matter what happens in life, anything, any thought, any desire, any action, everything that happens in reality is actually governed by one thought, and that is the thought of creation. So in life, we feel like we have freedom. In life, we feel like we can do whatever we want to do. But in reality, when we look at this, the Kabbalists are saying, well, listen, how can you do anything in life, even though you think you might be doing it freely? How can you do anything in life when you've been created from a thought of creation that needs to come to a certain point of development with all your phases already predetermined here? Okay. So this is very interesting for us to know, because it'll later on allow us to sharpen where freedom of choice is. Even if we're going to see, even if we have any, we'll be able to find out where the freedom of choice is, if there is any. So that's the root phase. Phase 1. The light creates a desire that precisely matches the abundance that it wants to give. So the Creator initially created a desire that can handle everything. Whatever the Creator wants to give, the desire to receive can take it, can handle it. The desire and the pleasure, they match each other out. Okay? So it's a good match. The Creator created everything perfectly, and we can actually take everything that the Creator has. So we'll be able to actually, otherwise it wouldn't really be perfection, would it? It's not good if I have, $10 million, but you already want, you just want $1 million. Okay, so let's say I have $100 million and you say, I'll just have $1 million. That's not really the desire for me to, the desire to bestow from my side is 100 million, but you want to take $1 million. That's not really matching. So the Creator initially created such a desire and filled it with everything. They said, this is what everything that I have, and you can have it all. This is very important, because afterwards, as we develop, all the desires that were fulfilled and the pleasures we received, it's going to remain inside of us as an impression. And that impression is very important, so we'll be able to use it later on. Just like in life, we remember certain things that happened in the past and write it down in our mind as an experience, so that we can actually use it in a calculation for a further action down the line. Okay, so it's similar to that. So let's go over that. However, the desire has no independence in that state. So the first phase is a place where we've got no independence. The Creator created us with a desire to receive, and He fulfilled it. That's it. It's not to talk about. Just like an embryo in a mother's womb. So let's read once again from the Wisdom of Kabbalah, item 5, the same article from Baal Sulam. Bechina Aleph. Now, Bechina Aleph is the first phase. Maybe I need to write that down as well. So this is the first phase, also known as Bechina Aleph. Aleph is the letter A in Hebrew. It also means one. Bechina Aleph, the first phase, called Chochmah, which is wisdom, by the way, is indeed the whole of the emanated being. Light and Kli. So this is actually what we are. The Creator initially thought to create something, and bang, He created it. Desire to receive, filled with pleasure. That's it. It's like finished everything in one hit. In it is the great will to receive, with all the light included in it, called Or Chochmah, light of wisdom, or Haya, light of Chaya, as it is all the Chaim, the life, in the emanated being, dressed in its Kli. However, Bechina Aleph is considered all light, and the Kli in it is barely noticeable, as it is mingled with the light and annulled in it as a candle in a torch. So imagine a baby being fulfilled with all the food and all the, the milk or whatever that he or she is getting in his mother's arms. He's completely fulfilled. He's getting fulfilled, feels warm, secure, nice. Everything is cozy, but has no real consciousness of his mother, has no real consciousness about what's going on. He just has the sensation that everything is great. But what's going on? I have no idea. All right. So this is what Baal HaSam is trying to explain to us. Well, this is a great situation. You know, we're completely fulfilled. Everything is nice. We're confident. We're feeling great. But we just don't understand what's going on with us. Okay? So we need to build something on top of that so we can start to understand what we're going through. This is why here there's a lot of light, but the desire is not really discernible, because we don't really have a desire. A baby just has a desire to eat, to feel warmth, security, get some rest, have its nappies changed and so on. That's it. So this is our situation in the first phase, but we're completely fulfilled with our mother's love and feeding and everything. Phase number 2. Let's see what we've got here. I've got to put my glasses on. Now, at the end of phase 1, the creature begins to identify that behind the abundance, there's a giver, someone who provides. Okay? Now, remember what I did note here in red. Right here. Okay? At the end of the phase, the Creator gives the desire to receive, the sensation that, hey, I'm giving it to you. I'm feeding you. I'm giving you all the love, the warmth, everything you need, I'm providing for you. That sensation is passed on. So that's the beginning of the phase, second phase. Then the desire wishes to be like the giver and enjoy the pleasure of giving. E.g., for example, a baby receives something and wants to give back. This is a new stage of development called the phase 2, a desire to bestow, and that's what we have here. So from the phase 1, we're beginning to now develop the desire to give it back. Let's read a little bit from Baal HaSam on this one. Following it comes Bechina Bet. This is Bechina Bet. Let me write that down as well. Bechina Bet. Bet is the letter B. It also means number 2. Since at its end the Kli of Chochmah prevails in equivalence of form with the upper light in it. This means that a desire to bestow upon the emanator appears in it. Remember, look how he's explained it to us. From this bestowing, the act of bestowing from the Creator, a new desire inside of us is developed, and that desire is to reciprocate giving, to bestow as well. This means that the desire to bestow upon the emanator appears in it according to the nature of the light within it, entirely to bestow. So the Creator, very smartly, has also injected inside of us this desire to bestow as well. Now remember, we're a desire to receive. We're a desire to want. But we can want to bestow. Even though we may not have anything to bestow, we may want to bestow. So he's giving us this desire to want to bestow, to give back. And now we've come to phase 3. Now phase 2 is only a desire to enjoy giving, right? But does it have anything to actually give? Just like we discussed a minute ago. At the end of phase 2, the creature realizes that it has nothing to give. The only source of pleasure is the Creator. Look at that. The only source of pleasure is the Creator. Not what I get from the Creator. The source of pleasure is the Creator. So the Creator is actually the pleasure. All right. He's the source of all the pleasure that we have. So the only way for the creature to give is to actually receive pleasure for the sake of giving to the Creator. So by receiving pleasure, the creature allows the Creator to give, which is what we discussed here in the 3rd phase. Okay, and let's read a little bit about this phase. Next follows Behina Gimel. Okay, so this is called Behina Gimel. Let's write that down as well. And as you can guess, yes, Gimel is the 3rd letter. It also means 3. Okay. Next follows Behina Gimel, which is phase 3. Once the light had diminished in the emanated being into Or Hasadim, without any Chokhmah. So the light here is called Or Chokhmah, which is the light of Chokhmah. Or means light, so that's Or Chokhmah. And the light in Bina is called Or Hasadim. Hasadim, which is the light of mercy. Okay, so this is wisdom. And this is mercy, the light of mercy. And that is the light of wisdom. Okay. While it is known that Or Chokhmah is the essence of the emanated being, because the essence of the emanated being is reception, and that's what it is. Okay. Our essence is reception, so Chokhmah is actually reception. While it is known that Or Chokhmah is the essence of the emanated being, hence at the end of Behina Bet, which is the 2nd phase, at the end of the 2nd phase, it awakened and drew within it a measure of Or Chokhmah, which is this little thing here. Okay, in the 3rd phase, we withdrew inside of us a little bit of Chokhmah, a little bit of reception. Okay, because what do we want to do? Well, I don't have anything to give to the Creator, as I discovered in the 2nd phase, but because I'm a desire to receive pleasure, and He wants to give me pleasure, I can receive a little bit of Chokhmah, which is this little thing here, to shine within its Or Hasadim, to shine in bestowal. So I'm receiving from the Creator because I want to make Him happy, and that is bestowal, which is this here. Okay? So that is the combination of Chokhmah and Hasadim in Zeir Anpin, or in Tiferet, which is the 3rd phase. This awakening re-extended a certain measure of the will to receive, which forms a new Kli called Behina Gimel. So this new phase now is developed, Behina Gimel, or Tiferet. And the light in it is called the light of Hasadim in illumination of Chokhmah. So we have here Chokhmah in Hasadim. So let me just delete that. Chokhmah in Hasadim. Because I've got a little bit of both, don't I? I have a bit of Chokhmah and I've got Hasadim as well. I have reception and bestowal. This awakening re-extended a certain measure of the will to receive, which forms a new kli called Bechina Gimel or Tiferet, and the light in it is called the light of Hasadim in illumination of Chokhmah, since the majority of that light is Or Hasadim and its lesser part is Or Chokhmah. So Chokhmah is a little bit, while Hasadim is huge. Okay, that's what it's trying to tell us. You know, I am bestowing much more than I'm receiving. So the Hasadim here is much, much more. Okay. There we go. Now we come to the phase 4, the fourth and the final phase. So in phase 3, we have a perfect circle. The Creator bestows to the creature, okay, so the Creator here bestows to the creature, and the creature bestows to the Creator in return by receiving the abundance. Okay, so I'm receiving from the Creator is bestowing, he's happy chappy, and I'm bestowing back to the Creator by receiving in order to make him happy. So I'm receiving and bestowing, and I'm really double the happiness. Okay, doubly happy. However, something completely new happens now. By bestowing to the Creator, the creature feels for the first time what it means to be at the status of the Creator. So now I've got this new sensation, what it means to be like the Creator. And now it wants to take in all the pleasure that exists in being like the Creator. So this is what we went through earlier. I want to take everything that the Creator has. He wants to give me everything. I want to take all of that. This is called phase 4, also referred to as Malchut from the verse Ani Imloch, which is I will rule. Only this phase is the completion of the will to receive. So I want the status of the Creator plus everything he wants to give me, and that is the real desire. Okay, we can actually say the desire to receive. The fourth phase, I will rule. I'm the king. Okay, that's what Malchut is. So let's read a little bit from Baal Islam on this one. This awakening is considered craving in the measure of the will to receive in Bechina Aleph, and exceeding it, since now it has already been separated from that light, as the light of Chokhmah is no longer clothed in it, but craves it. Thus the form of the will to receive has been fully determined, since the Kli is determined following the expansion of the light and its departure from there. Later, when it returns, it will receive the light once more. It turns out that the Kli precedes the light, and this is why this Bechina Dalet is considered the completion of the Kli, and it is called a Malchut, kingship. Now this is very interesting, we need to know. The fourth phase is the outcome of everything that happened before. The root, first, second, and third. And when this desire to receive went through all these phases, it had an impression, it had a sensation of everything it received, everything it gave, everything it did in terms of combining, giving and receiving, and then deciding finally to really have everything, to have everything that the Creator has, and to have a status. This thing now brings about a new desire to receive inside of us, and it's called a craving, which is an exaggerated desire to receive. But it needs to be in this exaggeration. Just like as we grow up, our desire to receive becomes more and more. It becomes greater. And if it didn't, we'd always remain like a little kid. We'd never grow. So this 4 phases is actually allowing us to grow the desire to receive into a real desire where the desire from itself wants to have everything that the Creator has and his status. So it develops something secondary. It's not just a desire to receive anymore. From everything that it went through, it now has a craving. It has a real desire to get something. And we need to associate that to this level here, because we need to understand that this is all reception. which is the first phase. Well, this is all reception as well, but the difference is here I have my own craving, because all the phases that I went through have now developed inside of me this additional thing that I want this. I want this to be mine. Where here, we didn't have such a desire. And that's called growth. And this is the growth of the desire to receive. You have any questions, Johnny?
No, I just...
Is it crystal clear?
Well, the topic of the 4 phases is, it always amazes me how you get different discernments every time you listen to it again. It's very simple, but it's very deep.
As we study it
because
more
we're
and
dealing
more.
ultimately with forces here.
Absolutely.
The forces of creation, which is everything's above our world, and this common desire, which was formed, the desire to receive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite. If I can ask a question, in terms of the phases, in terms of time that these phases evolved, one from the next, can you measure it in time of anything of this world, or?
No, because in spirituality we don't have a time, place and motion like we do here.
Right.
Time is measured in terms of going from one desire to the next. That's
from one state.
Time. Yeah, from one state to the next, or from one desire to the next desire.
Okay.
If I'm hopping between desires, how fast I hop from one desire to another is called time.
Okay.
That's how you measure time. It's not like minutes and seconds like we have here. And the desire is known as a place. So it's like what I want and how that from one desire I'm moving to another desire, and that's changing place. So there's time, there's motion, and there's place, but the place is the desire, and from one desire to the other is the movement, and how fast I do it is time. So it's not like a time period we have here. However, though, I think it's good to keep in mind the 4 phases is really interesting, because in life many things are working in this way. For example, we have 4 seasons, we have 4 parts of the day. So everything inside of us that develops actually goes through these 4 phases. For example, anything that develops in you, a desire, a thought, to do something, to want to accomplish something, from its initial state, for it to come to a real desire, it takes 4 phases. And in fact, what you can do, you can break down every phase also into 4 phases as well, because sometimes you have a really strong desire and you're really moving towards it, and sometimes there's the moments where you drag your feet along, and it's like stretching time about. So you can actually really take this 4 phases of direct light and break it into little bits and pieces, and you can really add it to any discernment you have. Because in this world we're not really living consciously. We don't really feel that something is developing in us. It's cooking inside of us, and then it's coming out like a real desire. We don't feel that. What happens in us is just that, sometimes you wake up and you feel like, I want to do this today, or I want to go here today, I want to eat this today. It just pops up inside of us. We're not really conscious about the development of how everything inside of us occurs in terms of thoughts, desires and feelings. But we can actually relate everything that's happening to us with these 4 phases, because this is actually how everything is developed in us as well. In life as well, there's 4 phases. The 4 seasons make 1 cycle. It makes 1 year. The 4 phases of the day also make 1 complete day. It's like 1 step. So it's really hidden in all areas of life, in terms of the corporeal world that we're living, but also in terms of the inner developments that we're going through.
So it's almost as if the Creator's in everything.
In everything, John.
Because the Yud Hey Vav Hey.
Yud Hey Vav Hey.
It's basically those states are within every aspect of existence, from the still vegetative, animate, the human, and it's operating there continually.
That's right.
It's just invisible to our eye,
Mm-hmm.
as to or our senses, I guess, how these four phases are necessarily acting at any point in time.
Exactly. This is why we have to develop our soul, so that we can actually be inside these things consciously,
Right.
and feel and understand how the Creator is working in us. And that's why the soul is actually called the organ, the sensory organ that that can perceive the Creator.
Right.
So it's very important for us to build a soul, so that we can actually go through all these phases consciously, because our body with our five senses is just an animate level, no different than I don't know, than an elephant or a cat or whatever.
Right. And is it true to say each discernment in the spiritual as well has these four phases within them?
Absolutely, everything is four phases inside them.
Right.
We can really dissect it to the smallest element.
Right. Right, I'm learning new things tonight.
All right, great. Well, I'm glad it's working on somebody. I hope this lesson worked on you guys as well. Now, I know some terms of there might be a little complicated. They're not complicated really. They're just new to us, okay? And because they're new, we're not familiar with them. You may be familiar or may not be familiar with them. It's sometimes difficult to get them together into one real picture. However, though, if you go over the lesson again a few more times and you remember the first term lessons that we did as well, it'll all just fit together fine. So, don't feel bad if you don't understand it or anything. Don't feel bad if you feel like, this is, somewhere out there and it's not really settled in you at the moment. Over time, it will be. None of us were born knowing this. So it'll take time, just like everything in life, but we'll get it done, not a problem. All right. Now I've got some really good news if you're in Asia, Africa, or any part of the world really, and watching these lessons now. If you're new to the Wisdom of Kabbalah and you've just joined our courses, or if you accidentally just happened to watch this lesson, on Saturday, the 3rd of August, we're going to have a live lesson. Okay. So this live lesson is going to be broadcast. And there we'll be having a little introduction to the Wisdom of Kabbalah for all our friends in English, and there'll be translation also to Japanese. All right, so if you're Japanese and you'd like to drop along and take a listen, ask questions live, you can. Also, if you're anywhere on the planet and you speak English and you'd like to ask a few questions, you can also. So please, if you're interested, write to us at... Let me just give you the email address here.
Maybe it's special.
There we go. It is a time specified, but I think it is 11:45 Israel time. Am I correct, Kurt? Yes, I am. So 11:45 a.m. This is going to be Tel Aviv time. Okay. If you'd like to join, or if you'd like to, listen live, ask questions also, you can. And there'll be live translation, like I said, to Japanese. You can write to us at asia@kabbalah.academy. Okay, did I get the email right? Okay, I guess so. Okay, so this is the email. You can also write to us. This is Asia. You can also write to us at africa@kabbalah.academy. Okay, also. And you can, if you're following us on Facebook or YouTube, you can also just drop a comment there, and we'll be more than happy to see if we can answer you. But the safest way to do so is to send us an email. Like I said, it is going to be on the 3rd of August. So if you're new to the Wisdom of Kabbalah and you'd like to pop your head in to this introduction to the Wisdom of Kabbalah lecture, we'd be more than happy to see you there and answer any questions. In the meantime, this is the first lesson of the second semester. We'll continue in the next week. We'll have the second lecture as well, and we'll keep moving forward. In the interim, have a great day or an evening, depending where you are. All the best. Bye now.
Bye, everyone.